Hey there, welcome back to the Oil Crisis Part 3. I'm Mr. Ng, JPJC, and this is the last part of this trilogy. So today let's look at stagflation. Okay, now let's examine what a black swan event is at this point in time. Okay, the idea of a black swan event is something that is unprecedented. Okay, yeah, it is actually used to describe an event that actually changes your fundamental understanding of a specific thing. For example, actually, if you look at the picture, right, okay, and when I say the word swan, okay, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Probably not black, because in everyone's mind, okay, swans are actually white. And most of the world thought that way until the 1800s when Australia was finally discovered. Okay, and that was when they found out that well there are really such things called black swans. Okay, because they only lived in Australia. So as I was saying, okay, a black swan event is something that redefines our understanding of any particular phenomenon. So this event is usually used to describe things, that fundamentally disrupt the economy. Okay, the COVID-19 virus situation that we are facing now, okay, is in a sense also unprecedented. Okay, and I guess future generations might refer to this as a black swan event, or for that matter, actually, it might turn out to be very short-lived. Okay, yeah, and it may not warrant the black swan event label, but I suspect that it will fundamentally change our lives. So COVID-19, yeah, black swan event. Okay, but back to the oil crisis of 1973. Why is it considered a black swan event then? Okay, let's have a look now, at the framework, that we have introduced the last time round. Let's look at a very specific part of the framework. Was there actually a solution to the problem? I mean, oil prices are higher, yes, yeah, a lot higher, but other than the obvious implications where everything becomes more expensive because oil is the fundamental energy giver, yeah, and thus used in a lot of the productive processes. Okay, was there any other issues with it? The answer is yes. It's the idea of stagflation. You see, for 30 long years, right, okay, after World War II, economies had more or less relied on this mixed economies way of doing things. Okay, if you cannot remember what the mixed economy is, okay, you go back to lecture one and read it. Okay, it's basically a partly free market, partly government intervention. So what happens, okay, is that if your economy in your country is currently not doing well, what you do as the government is to spend, correct? Okay, so you spend on infrastructure. Okay, so as a result of that, you stimulate your economy, okay, out of the recession, okay, yeah, that it is currently in. Okay, it's pretty much similar to what the Singaporean government is doing now. Okay, yeah, I think this one is a bit okay. It's not exactly stimulating the economy. They're actually trying to prevent the economy from collapsing completely. Okay, yeah, by ensuring that all the small businesses, okay, and people like you and me, okay, yeah, actually continue to have money to spend since it's almost a total shutdown. Okay, but back to the oil crisis. Okay, so what happens is that during bad times, the governments will spend, and as a result of that, okay, yeah, ordinary people will get money in their pockets. Okay, so how does this work? For example, government builds a road, okay, during a bad time. So as a result of that, the construction company gets the contract. The company employs people. These ordinary people get paid by the construction company, who is in turn paid by the government. But the most important thing is that these ordinary people get paid. They go on, okay, to buy clothes, buy food, and all that, and ensure that all the other sectors of the economy get paid. Okay, so economics term here, velocity of money. Okay, so this is where we ensure that the money actually continues to circulate within the economy. Now, During good times when the economy is booming, what happens is that the government tries to avoid spending, because if you were to do that, okay, you are actually chasing after uh, factors of production, okay, which are already more or less fully used by the private economy. Okay, so for example, okay, yeah, regardless of how much more, okay, you pay Mr. Ng can only work for 24 hours a day. Okay, even if I give up sleep, okay, and every other activity in my life, okay, that's a maximum to how much I can work. So even if the only thing that happens then, okay, is that I will just simply demand higher prices, okay, for my service, as opposed to actually producing more. So in that case, what you end up with is that you create an inflationary scenario. Okay, so you just have too much money chasing after too few goods. Now back to our black swan impact, okay, of the oil crisis. Okay, the oil crisis caused this thing called stagflation. Okay, because what happens is that, okay, this is a recession. Okay, government spending, instead of bringing back growth, it ended up fueling inflation. Why is that the case? Because most of the excess spending, okay, higher went to the higher energy prices. Okay, so as you can see, most of the money didn't stay within the country itself, it flowed out to the oil exporting countries. Okay, so that is the inflation bit of stagflation. Okay, so in this case, you just say, okay, well, then as a government, we do nothing. Okay, but then that what happens then is that the economy then continues to stagnate. Okay, demand is already down. Okay, because prices have risen. So you have a lovely choice. Okay, if you spend, okay, you cause inflation. If you don't do anything, okay, you end up stagnating. Okay, so Keynesian theory, okay, which is that you could always spend your way out of a recession, okay, was utterly destroyed as a result. Okay, it is fundamentally life changing, okay, for the economies, okay, of this era. Their conventional wisdom didn't work anymore. They had no solution. Okay, so that is what was caused by the oil crisis. Okay, the problem is stagflation, and what it resulted in was the fact that they no longer had this tool called Keynesian theory, okay, to manage their economies, because it no longer worked. Okay, so this part here, okay, I think you all can just read yourself. Okay, it's a repetition of whatever that I've just gone through. Okay, now let's have a look now. How bad was it? Okay, was this a completely unsolvable problem? Okay, eventually, they did give up money. They did give up Keynesian economics and switch to monetarism. Okay, yeah, but okay, you don't need to know too much of this. Okay, you just need to know this is what happened. Okay, yeah, and that a solution was found. But nevertheless, the oil crisis was still impactful because it resulted in a fundamental shift, okay, or a paradigmatic shift, okay. A paradigm is just simply a way of looking at things, okay, a model, okay, yeah, this is what we will do, okay, yeah, in the event it comes to this. Okay, so it resulted in this fundamental shift in the way that governments handle economic policy. Okay, so it changed after 1973. All right, to summarize this entire topic on the oil crisis, okay, you just need to remember, okay, winners and losers. Who won, who lost. Your third world or your developing world is split into two parts. Okay, primarily your oil producing and your oil non-oil producing. Okay, probably I should use the words exporting. Okay, yeah, so you may want to change them in your notes. Okay, to the developed world, if you recall, the oil crisis was a nuisance. Okay, yeah, their growth slowed down, but they still managed to get growth within that year. Okay, in any case, it was not fatal to them. Okay, I can't say the same for the non-oil producing third world countries. Okay, as we will find out their fates later. Okay, yeah, it is not pleasant. Okay, to be one of these countries in the year 1982. Okay, the primary winners are your oil exporting third world countries, okay, who benefited from this. Okay, oil exporting countries benefited from these increased oil prices. Okay, so you want to explore in this paragraph countries such as do not write Brazil. Okay, I made a mistake there. It's at Venezuela. Their revenues actually benefited from the oil boom. Okay, and as a result from that, they could actually borrow more from the American money center banks. Remember this phrase. We will come back to this later. Okay. Yep. So actually, this slide here, okay, yeah, you can more or less read yourself as well. Okay. We will actually revisit this slide after we finish the debt crisis. Okay, so overall for this question, assess the importance of the oil crisis of 1973 as a turning point for the global economy. You can actually pretty much say that yeah, it's the first of its kind. Okay, and then you may wish okay to compare the impact of this oil crisis okay with X, where X would be any of the other issues. Okay, for example, in this question, you may even compare the oil crisis of 1979. Okay, in which case yes, pretty much the oil crisis of 1973, okay, is something that's unique. It's the first time it happened. When it happened in 1979, okay, the second oil crisis, it wasn't as severe because the world had undergone the first oil shock and was better prepared for it. Okay, this line, short, sharp shock versus a low key, perennial, ongoing, recurring factor, okay, is where we compare oil crisis of 1973 to protectionism. Okay, so keep this in mind when we deal with protectionism. Okay, here's a fun exercise. Okay, yeah, before we move on to the last part, which is the joke. Okay, yeah, the year is 1973. You're the leaders of the oil exporting countries. What would you buy with the $64 billion that had just come in? Okay, you may want to pause the video at this time, okay, to allow your class to discuss, okay, with one another what they would buy. Okay, if any of them said that they will buy tickets to watch football, okay, yeah, the correct answer is why not buy the entire football club? Okay. If any of the girls said they wanted any of the expensive handbags, okay, like Gucci, okay, the correct answer is not to buy a Gucci handbags or many Gucci handbags. The answer is to actually buy Gucci to stop the brand. Okay. Now, having said that, okay, let's consider, okay, yeah, the following joke that was making. I first read this in a Solid Singapore joke book that was around in the 1980s. Okay, so in the immediate period after the first oil crisis, there was a stockbroker who made billions of dollars, okay, for this rich Arab oil sheikh, okay, from investing all the profits made through the sale of oil. Okay, so this oil sheikh, okay, offered the stockbroker all kinds of gifts, okay, but the stockbroker declined it all, saying that no, it's not part of my job. Okay, yeah, at this point in time, you probably know it's a joke, okay, who will say no, right? The sheikh was really insistent, so the stockbroker casually mentioned that she had picked up golfing as a hobby, and so perhaps a set of golf clubs would be nice. Okay, so for several weeks, okay, she didn't hear from the sheikh, okay, until yeah, he finally sent her a telegram. What did the telegram say? Okay, you may pause the video at this point again, okay, yeah, to allow your class to discuss. Okay, so far I bought you 3 golf clubs. I hope you aren't disappointed that only 2 of them has swimming pools. Okay, of course this is a recording of a lecture. Okay, yeah, actually I need to explain this joke. Usually I don't need to. Okay, yeah. Golf clubs here refer to the physical. You can actually refer to the item that you use to hit the golf ball. Okay, or in this case, it's a bit like it's a bit like country club. Okay, yeah. So the instead of buying her a set of golf clubs to play golf with, okay, he went out and bought entire sets. Okay, yeah, entire sprawling, yeah, huge, real estate pieces. Okay, of golf clubs. Okay, so this set of lines, okay, so this set of questions are also useful. Okay, I always like jokes as historical sources. Okay, yeah, because they do actually tell you what the people were thinking about or what is considered significant to the people of their time. Okay, so you can look through these questions yourself. Okay, yeah, and if you understood the principle of the joke, okay, I would like to ask you to consider whether you have heard any similar jokes recently. Okay, and if so, what are they? Okay, I should pause at this time, okay, to let you think about it and to let you discuss before I move on to my final slide. So the idea behind the joke that you saw just now, okay, is the sheer wealth that was available, okay, to the beneficiaries of the oil crisis. Okay, does it mean that this was only back in like the 1970s or in the 80s when I read it in a joke book? Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, so this is another one. Okay, yeah, that was produced. Okay, I won't tell you what when it is. I'll tell you later. Okay, but let's have a look at the words first. Okay, so it's a hypothetical letter written by this rich yin oil producer, son of the oil producer, okay, from the Middle East. Okay, dear Dad, Berlin is wonderful. People are nice. I really like it here. But Dad, I'm a bit ashamed to arrive at my college with my pure gold Ferrari. Okay, yeah, when all my teachers and many of my fellow students travel by train. Okay, your loving son, Nasir. So the next day, okay, the boy gets a reply to his email from his dad. My dear loving son, 20 million US dollar has just been transferred to your account. Stop embarrassing us. Go and buy yourself a train too. Love, Dad. Okay. So I can tell you that this joke, okay, was it largely appeared on my Facebook feed. I would say maybe in 2008, 2009. Okay, in response to the 2007 2008 oil crisis. Okay, you may wish to actually Google 2007 2008 oil crisis when the price of oil, okay, yeah, rose up tremendously high. Okay, whether or not this joke, okay, will still be circulated in the year 2020 when this recording is made, when oil prices have actually collapsed, okay, yeah, in the immediate week after the outbreak of COVID-19. I don't think it has anything to do with COVID-19. It was something else, okay, yeah, with OPEC, okay, yeah, they are quarrel among themselves. Okay, but as I was saying, okay, yeah, it is not very likely, okay, that this joke will be repeated, okay, yeah, in this time, but it certainly seemed relevant in the period in the post 1973 oil crisis, as well as the 2008 oil crisis. Okay, thank you very much. Herein ends this entire series on the oil crisis.